UFOs were clearly noticed by our military during and immediately after World War II. In the years that followed, nuclear weapons and the Cold War would dominate the attention of government planners concerned with preventing disaster and maintaining global security. In a world on the verge of self-destruction, telling the truth was considered far too dangerous. Looking back over half a century of denial, Sergeant Clifford Stone has contemplated what we have lost and what we stand to gain by telling the truth today.
It's often asked, what have we been denied historically by the secrecy that surrounds the UFO phenomena? Well, to that I can only state this. In history we study about ancient civilizations. We also study about our early history. Hopefully we learn from these lessons of early history and ancient civilizations, and we grow from that type of knowledge. Well, in this instance, we have been denied the full truth that there are other civilizations out there in space, that those civilizations are visiting us, what their cultures are like, how do they differ from us, how are they like us. These are all things that some historian in the future will be addressing, because UFOs are here. They are in fact piloted by different species within our own universe. So we're being denied this type of knowledge. We are being denied exposure to this type of knowledge, which I don't think would hurt us, but it would make us grow. It would make us grow spiritually. I don't think it would have the damning effect that a lot of people think it would have should it come out. The scientific community would be hurt because they'd have to go back to school, because their science, their understanding of physics is different from what our understanding of physics is. Organized religion, I don't think that would even be damaged. It wouldn't shake my belief in God. I would continue to believe in God. I'd continue to pray. I would continue to be a Catholic. If we go ahead and we deny reality, we are not being truthful to ourselves, and we are not being truthful to the world population. UFOs are a reality. They are here.
And for those who continue to insist there is not enough evidence, the United States government and other governments around the world speak for themselves.
Now, these right here are rolls of microfilm. 94 of rolls like this make up Project Blue Book. Most people have never seen what's in these files. What you hear about and what people say about these files, once you get to see them and read them, you then realize there's a whole lot in there that clearly points that even Blue Book had to conclude there was something. Although by regulation, they had to reduce the number of the unknowns. Therefore, possible and probables were being used to identify possible aircraft, probable aircraft, meteors, atmospheric phenomena. At the end of the year, they would then be no longer possible or probable. There are over 700 unknowns within the Blue Book files. Today, people state that if we had more information, we could readily identify those. Well, you had three categories in Blue Book. You had identified, insufficient data, and unknown. If all the data wasn't there that would allude to some type of plausible conclusion being reached, it would be considered an insufficient data case. Those cases that were identified as unknowns had all the data there to which a reasonable conclusion, if there was one, could have been reached. But after careful analysis, none could. These were the cases they couldn't hide. These were the cases that they had no choice but to call unknown. These files right here are part of the administrative files of Project Blue Book. Briefing our congressionals were in an effort to try to get started. Efforts were made to ensure that these congressionals never got off the ground. Assertive efforts behind closed doors. There were briefings that was given. There were documents drawn up to assist in the aid of identifying UFOs. This document clearly shows that certain phenomena could be identified as UFOs from time to time. So it was to eliminate those and then leave you with only the true unknowns. So this document was utilized. There were briefings, there were special reports, the Scientific Advisory Board of the U.S. Air Force, the status reports, Project Stork that eventually led to Special Report 14. All of these documents are important, and the American people should read them. The American people should have access to these documents. Starting over here on my left, we have UFO documents from the FBI and from Department of Defense. These right here are some of the very good FBI documents. For example, in the Project Blue Book files, there are certain documents dealing with Project Twinkle you're not going to find. But they're here. They were in the FBI documents. You find out that with the FBI documents, there was a tremendous amount of concern about UFO sightings over a nuclear facility at Oak Ridge. Things were going on there. You find out that there's cases mentioning FBI radar cases in the FBI files, which the Air Force tried to state wasn't there. You also find out that some documents alluded to there being that the Air Force, while they were telling the American public that there was nothing to UFOs, high-ranking officials within the Air Force involved in UFO investigations was actually concerned about some UFOs being extraterrestrial spacecraft. These right here are all NSA documents that have been released. These are the 172 pages that they said was so sensitive the American public couldn't see them. To give the illusion that they had been released in their entirety, the stuff that you couldn't see was whited out. Therefore, you don't have the big black marks on the document that makes you ask the question, what is this all about? Remember, all files on Moondust and Blue Fly are not supposed to exist. Yet, here is the State Department Defense Intelligence Agency's documentation on Moondust and Blue Fly, dealing with cases in which we have recovered objects of unknown origin or objects of foreign origin that survived re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere. Some of these are very earthly objects that returned. Others are not. Others are objects that to this day, even though they happened in the 60s, have yet to be ascertained as to their origin, or for the U.S. government to acknowledge what they were. They have not been returned to any foreign power as would be required under international law. Therefore, are we violating international law? Are the countries in which we would have recovered objects belonging to them, are they so incompetent that they would not have known that these objects went down and where they went down? I don't think so. UFO sightings in Bolivia, Kuwait, Argentina, another one in Kuwait, France, Colombo, Buenos Aires, Bridgetown, all of these being Moondust documents, making reference in some cases to UFOs, all the way into the 80s. And remember, we ceased having an interest in UFOs December 17th, 1969, with the closure of Blue Book. Really? If that's the case, why do we have these documents? Remember, they're raw data, raw field data. Where is the finalized intelligence product? You don't gather information and not do something with it. Down here, we have Defense Intelligence Agency documents and Department of State documents dealing once again with UFOs and Blue Fly. You'll see that these events have taken place all over the world, in every country. Once again, the question begs to be answered. Where is the finalized intelligence product? What is the government trying to hide? Why do these documents exist when the only agency that was supposed to be investigating UFOs was the Air Force? Well, you've heard my story, and you've seen some of the documentation I have. I suggest that the documentation clearly shows that we are not alone in the universe, that we have visitors from distant solar systems, many light years away, that the technology required to do that we always concluded was impossible, we are now working on. The evidence that isn't supposed to be there clearly is there based upon the abundance of the documentation that has been released. It's just that the other evidence, the hard, finalized intelligence product, those have not surfaced. Gun camera footage that is known to exist and alluded to in the Blue Book files has yet to surface. The photographs and film footage that has been taken after the closure of Blue Book has yet to surface. These are things that we must try to get a hold of and get it out. For those of you who believe that there is nothing to UFOs, let me say this. Today, we are reaching for the stars. Tomorrow, we will achieve the technology to reach those stars. Day after tomorrow, we ourselves will become someone else's unidentified flying objects.